Hey, queens and kings. This is Sharrona Reaves, and you are listening to These Three Things podcast. We are down to the last 3 episodes of season 2. And it feels like season 2 has really flown by. And when I sit here and just think about my guest and the episodes that have been a part of season 2, I have really loved every single conversation I've had in this season. In season 1 as well. I've loved every single conversation I've had since I've started this podcast. I love learning about people. I love learning about their stories. I think so many times we size people and we judge other people and we don't know their stories. I think we look at successful people and we admire them and we may want to be them, or we may want to accomplish some of the things that they have. And we don't know the hardships that they went through before they achieved the success to be where they are. Get to know the stories of the people around you. How many of the people around you do you even know their stories? What's really happened to them in life? What shaped them? How they were raised? Pivotal moments, things that changed them, things that defined them. I love it. I am intrigued by it. I could have conversation ad nauseum. Like, my podcast episodes could legitimately be 4 or 5 hour episodes, because this question leads me to that question. Now I want to know this thing, and now I want to know deeply how you felt about that. I just want to know people on a deep level. I don't like anything surface. I hate fake. Well, hate is a strong word, but I dislike fake and surface. I like real. And I know everybody's not that deep and everything in life isn't that deep. But when we're talking about life and we're talking about our stories, I really want to know the real about people. And for no other reason than to just know them better, to appreciate them better. And I think that if we really knew the stories of the people around us, we would appreciate each other a lot more. Those are just my thoughts about it. I'm going to keep on interviewing people. Season 3, I'm going to try to knock your socks off with some of the people that I interview and some of the conversations that we're going to have. And I'm not going to say much about season 3 because it's in development stages, but I'm praying big prayers. I'm praying big prayers. Let me just say that. The Black Women in Faith episode, you guys have loved that episode. Thank you for listening to my Unstoppable Faith sisters. I love them. And yes, we have a good time together. I heard that quite a bit from a lot of listeners, that it sounds like you guys have a lot of fun, and we do. And those relationships are built off of a lot of love and a lot of trust. And I love those women. I love being around them. I love spending time together in our conversations and the things that we talk about. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it too. I'm glad you enjoyed our conversation about faith and just some of our stories in that group and things that we've overcome. I know when I tell my basketball stories and experiences, it may come across that it was bad, or I had some amazing moments. I have been at the top of a profession and been one of the best at doing something in this nation. I have traveled. I have seen the world. I have experienced amazing highs, and I have been at the depths of despair at some devastating defeats and loved it. Basketball gave me a lot. It helped me take care of my children. It helped me to do some amazing things for people that otherwise I would have not been able to do. It allowed me to make some great money that has sustained me. It has been a great experience, but it was time for me to move on. I have had some amazing experiences because of basketball, and I will always love the game of women's basketball, and I expect nothing but big things from women's basketball. With Dawn Staley leading the pack, who else is better fit for that? Big ups to women's basketball, and we're going to give an applause. That's right. That's right. got to give an applause, man. I spent 18 years in that industry and loved it. Loved it. A lot of great experiences. So um, let me just tell y'all something. This chicken pot pie that my listener sent to me, I have made it twice now. I'm not even ashamed to say this chicken pot pie is so freaking good. I have made it twice now. It's like my Sunday meal. I can't wait to go and make another chicken pot pie. And it like kind of sustains me at least until Wednesday, you know? So, again, sir, thank you for your chicken pot pie recipe. I have shared it and I am still cooking it. And it's been great, even though it warmed back up in Savannah and was like 80 this past week. I still, enjoy my chicken pot pie. The place in the world that we are giving applause to today and saying thank you is none other than the state, deep south state of Alabama. That's right. That's right. For those of you who are listening for the first time, I am a graduate of the University of Alabama, Crimson Tide, the 2020-21 national champions in college football. They actually won a national championship when I was there on campus, and it was a good time to be alive. Let me just say that. It was a great time to be alive. Thank you, Alabama, for listening. I know plenty of folks in Alabama, so any of you who are tuning in and listening to these three things, thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening and tuning into the show. Some of you have probably heard things about me that you never knew. Some of you probably thought that you knew me and you now realize that maybe you didn't as much as you thought. And some of you are like, yeah, that's Bebe. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, that is my nickname. That is what most people who have known me most of my life call me, is Bebe. But I'm a professional now, and I go by Sharrona. It's whatever. I can still be Bebe. I don't care. That's never really been a big issue with me. But I'm excited about today's episode. I am super excited I'm excited about every episode. But today, you guys, I'm introducing you to my love, one of my loves, my daughter, Kimora Reaves. Y'all, I just like my daughter. I think you guys will like her too. I think the dynamics of the mother and daughter relationship is important. It is everything. And we just wanted to talk about it. So I'm going to stop talking and let you guys hear the conversation for yourself. Mother and daughter relationships with my daughter, Kimora Reaves. Enjoy.
There's a place for us we can depend. There are hearts can trust that will find unity. You and I and many more. These three things, that's how we'll be restored. So we can rise up, move. We've got the victory. Burdens loose. These three things. Higher, higher we go. Don't stop, we're too close. Free your mind, let's go. These three things.
This is Sharrona Reaves, and you are listening to These Three Things podcast, and I am here today with my daughter, Kimora Reaves. Hey, Kim, how you doing?
Hello, doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. We are here today to talk about Black women and our relationships with our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this would be a great conversation for us to have, especially in this season of your life with you being older now and more of an adult, and being able to reflect on these first 19, soon to be 20 years of your life. I mean, technically still a teenager, but I mean, you've always been kind of mature. Yeah, you have, and been able to take care of your business and do what you've needed to do. And I just feel like with everything that's going on in the world, I think this is a perfect time to have this conversation.
I agree.
And I also think that for Black women in general, I think a lot of times the dynamics of a mother and daughter relationship in our culture can be either really close or completely in the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So tell my listeners, I mean, they've obviously, if they've been listening to these three things, they know that I love my kids. I love my son and daughter. But just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to start off by saying I'm super duper excited to finally be on the show. I keep saying, like, how many times is she going to have a podcast? And I'm not one of her guests, but here we are. I am going into my second semester here of my sophomore year. I go to Tennessee State University up in Nashville. I am majoring in political science. My goal is to become a Supreme Court judge, but before that, I want to become a lawyer, a civil rights attorney, to be exact. I am managed by Tribe Talent Management. It is a model and talent agency up in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I am signed as a curve model. That's going pretty great. I'm really excited to see what the future holds with that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's all good stuff. So let's jump right in. You were born, we are recording this episode in Savannah, Georgia. Kimora is leaving tomorrow to head back to Nashville for school, which will probably end up being online mostly.
It's virtual.
Yeah, it'll be virtual school. So you were born in Nashville, Tennessee.
Correct.
So you're back in Nashville, Tennessee, full circle.
Crazy how that works, huh? After everywhere we've been.
I know. And we've been some places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. With my coaching career and, me trying to chase that Division I dream and being a head coach, I was never afraid to move around. I always felt like it would be good for me just to learn from different coaches and styles of play. So, which was partially the reason why we moved a lot, because I felt that I didn't want to just be under one head coach. I wanted to have some diversity. I wanted to see different conferences and leagues. In my mind, I was always prepping myself for the D1 job. But it's funny how, they say we make our plans and God steps in and changes them.
Yeah.
But to the question, we moved around a lot. You moved around a lot. Can you name all of the places that you've lived?
I can.
Okay, go for it.
So I started out in Nashville. From Nashville, we moved to West Virginia. West Virginia, we moved to New York. From New York, we moved to Mississippi. From Mississippi, we moved to Alabama. From Alabama, we moved to Florida. From Florida, we moved back to West Virginia. From West Virginia, we moved to Tennessee. And now we're in Georgia. Well, yeah.
I'm in Georgia.
Tennessee, yeah. Back and forth for me, but you're in Georgia. I'm in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of moving.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that as a kid?
At the time, it was kind of cool because, it was a new environment, new friends, new things, just new, everything. Mm-hmm. But the more I got older, it became more just like I was losing like things over and over and over again. And it became to the point where like I wouldn't get too attached to something because I knew like my mom's career was going to end up coming to an end here and then having to start like fresh somewhere else. So I always try to keep that mindset. But then again, like, I mean, overall, it was cool. It was nice to be the new girl on the block. It was nice to, tell them like, yeah, my mom's a coach. She coaches, at whatever university was, around. And yeah, I mean.
So was it ever hard? I felt like, and this is just my take, but I want to hear your version of it. Because sometimes I think as mothers or as parents, we think that you guys are perceiving things a certain way, but then there's your reality. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of felt like that my last job in Knoxville was like the perfect stop for you.
It was.
Because I feel like that all the other places you guys could have, I think Kendon, West Virginia definitely for your brother was the spot for him, because he had his crew. He had his crew there, and that was the first time Kendon truly had a crew.
Yeah.
And so I think West Virginia was the spot for him. But for you, I feel like the spot was Knoxville, because it was your starting your sophomore
I
year.
blossomed, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that. Like, why was Knoxville such a blossoming moment for you?
Knoxville was very, very it was great for me. I really needed it. Coming from Morgantown, West Virginia, where it was predominantly, white people, and then transferring down to the South, where I see more people who not only look like me, but have my body type, have the type of hair that I have, talk the same way that I talk. It was just like, it was so amazing. From the first week from my high school, I was just like, yeah, Mom, like, I'm going to like it here. It's pretty cool.
So you weren't nervous, like being a high school kid going into a new high school?
No.
I guess that was from all the moving.
Yeah, that also. But when you said that we were moving to Knoxville, Tennessee, I was ready. I was so ready. I was like, well, one, I was like, that's closer to family. Yeah. It's only 2.5 hours down from my grandparents. So I was like, perfect. I've always wanted to live in Tennessee since I was a kid. So it was like perfect. Like, I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah. You know what your comment taught me, though? It made me realize that so many times as Black parents, when we are in a position to give our kids like the best educations and put them in the best environments, we always tend to end you guys up in places where it's predominantly white. Mm-hmm. And what I learned from that is that we have to be, and there's nothing wrong with that if your kid is in a predominantly white area, but there is some diversity to a measure. But what you said to me made me realize that I think as parents, we think we're doing our kids a service by putting them in those environments. But I'm not necessarily sure if that's the case, because you've always been a kid who's cared about your academics, and school has always been very important to you. But I physically saw you blossom around your own people.
I've seen myself blossom. And it's crazy because I go to school at TSU now with a girl who's also from Knoxville who went to a private school.
Yes.
And it's crazy because we'll talk and we'll be like, yeah, like, it's just crazy how like much better, how much we've blossomed with coming from that situation to a situation where we see more sisters and brothers that are like us, that we can feel comfortable and not feel like, we're the oddball out or the,
Yeah, I get that, because what I realized from you saying that was, and correct me if I'm taking your experience out of context, but what I realized out of that is that in order for some, not all Black kids, because, we're not all monolithic, we're not all the same, but I think for some Black kids to be around your own as you're growing and developing helps you develop with a more with a bigger confidence and a bigger self-awareness and have better self-esteem. Yes. And that's not to say, that if your kids are going to a predominantly white school or I'm, promoting, go to all Black or don't send your kids to all white schools. I mean, to each his own. But what I noticed in your experience was that you had predominantly been in mostly white places, even when we lived in, more diverse cities, you kind of were always in all white places. Yeah. And
and it's like what you said about developing, because I feel like that's so important and it's so true. Like when I was younger and I was going to those predominantly white schools, it was no like, it was just, I'm going to school, I'm learning, it's just another day. But as you get older, I feel like kids start to take notice of that type of stuff like I did. You're having grownish up thoughts, you're evolving, you're growing up basically. Like, I feel like.
Was that when you started checking for boys? When you say grownish up thoughts, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess checking for boys.
Okay,
Checking for boys, feeling yourself, smelling yourself, all that good stuff.
Yes, I do know. I remember.
Yeah.
And so you were saying like it, when you started to grow up a little bit and you started to become aware of like there's nobody here that. So what did that do to you, like mentally, when you're looking around and you're starting to notice like the cute boys and stuff like that, and you're maybe like one of two black girls in the whole place? Like,
Ooh.
how did that make you feel?
Mentally, that it really did a number to me, because like I said, when you grow up, you start to want to like, fit in a little bit. So it caused me to put chemicals in my hair. I was perming my hair. Hair was so unhealthy, just damaged. I was this thick, black, brown, I'm going to add that, beautiful girl.
Absolutely.
Just in this environment where it was nobody else like me.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't realize how much I shined, but in that moment, it's just like, why can I not have like straight hair? Why can I not have long hair? Why can I not be petite and this height and this? Like, it was always, why can I not be this? Why can I not be that? And after so much of that, it becomes exhausting. It's like, why can I just like, be happy with the body that I'm in? Like, why do I have to feel like I need to look like this, be like this, talk like that to fit in? But yeah, it was mentally exhausting though. But I really do thank Knoxville, because it helped me to just love the body that I'm in, love my skin. And if I could go back and tell my little 11, 12-year-old self, I'd be like, just love yourself. You're amazing. You're beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. You are beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it was, I have to say, as your mom, it was beautiful to see the blossoming. It was beautiful to see the glow up, because, couldn't tell you nothing. Like, but I mean, you were into sports, like you were in your own student council, like you were always into something. And I loved that.
Day one.
Yeah.
From day one of coming to my high school, it was like I got into sports. I made friends. I was on 3 sports, actually. I was on homecoming court. I went to prom all 3 years. It was just amazing. It was a great experience.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we're trying to sell some of those dresses now. Hit me up. We got dresses.
We got dresses.
Yeah. But beautiful dresses. Yeah, they were all really beautiful dresses.
Really pretty.
Yeah, they were really pretty. So the moving was okay until we got to Knoxville, and that was the perfect time, because it was a good, diverse situation for you. We're talking about being young and living in places where it was predominantly white a lot. And I remember, and I've told this story on These Three Things before, where you came to me and you told me about a young girl who came to you one day and said something about the difference in our complexions and what you thought about that. Share that story from your experience, like from your own words.
So first and foremost, I just want to clarify that the girl who actually came up to me was a black girl.
She was a black girl.
She was a black girl.
Oh my God, why have I always thought that it was a white kid who said it to you?
And you know what? And I was like, I feel like I need to tell Mom that it was a black girl who actually said it.
Well, thank you for telling me on the air after.
Sorry.
After I've said it 1,000 times. Okay, so tell me. Yeah.
So it was a black girl. And I remember you had came up to my school, probably dropping off something that I forgot at home. And I just remember her looking at you and looking at me and being like, your mom's light skinned? And I'm like, yeah, she's light skinned. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, she looks nothing like you. And I'm like, I do. I hear that a lot. Thank you for saying that for the 100th time. And she's like, wow, that's so crazy. And in that moment, it was like, wow, like my mom is light skinned. But before she had even said that, I just looked at you as a mom. I never was like, I never looked at you and was like, my mom's light skinned. When people ask about you, I'm never like, she's light skinned, like this, that, and the third. Like, you were just my mom. You were my mom.
Right.
I mean, obviously, like, I knew that we were different colors, but it was never a big deal to me. It was never like,
so like, it was more about the fact that she noticed it that made you think about it.
The fact that she pointed it out and the way, like, she had said it, and she was so just like, like appalled by it. It was like, why is that but why
did she make you feel like it was an issue that we were different
A little
complexions?
bit, just because of the attention that rose, and more people became to get like engaged in it, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, like Kimora, that's your mother? Like, wow, like she's pretty. I didn't know that she was light skinned. That's crazy. How are you dark skinned?" And then it would lead to another conversation, and I would have to be like, "Okay, well, as you can see, yes, my mother's light skinned, my father is dark skinned, and then here I am." And
So did you think it was silly to have that conversation? Were you like people just don't understand that, or?
When I was younger, like at the time, no. But now that I am older, if I was to hear that, if I was to hear somebody say like your mom's light skinned, like it would be kind of, I don't want to say like
Offensive.
Offensive. I don't want to say offensive or disrespectful, but I would be like, why is that even an issue? Like, why do you feel the need to say that?
Yeah. Right. So let's just talk about the colorism issue, because you and I, we've talked about it a lot, and you know how I feel about the colorism issue. Like, it really just bothers me, because it's like we have, and it's not that there's not a reality for brown skinned girls. What I think sometimes is missed is the reality for light skinned women as well. And I think the beauty of it between you and I is that we've had a chance to see both each other's experiences.
Yeah.
And so I've never really raised you about complexions, have I?
No.
What do you remember from me about complexions and dark skin, light skin, whatever, that whole colorism issue? I mean, we never really talked about it.
Yeah, we never really talked about complexion because we love it all. What is there really to say?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is real. We love it all. Like, we've always, like, I have always, like, just commented on beauty. And I think that, see, for me, it's really hard because this is just the skin that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like it's almost like when I see black people, when we get into arguments about the light skin, dark skin, and, I can see some of the things that brown skin sisters say, like about how maybe sometimes they see light skinned women in more opportunities than dark skinned women. I used to think that was really more prevalent when I was younger. I think now, honey, brown skin, chocolate sisters, they got it going on. Like, they're out here and visible. But I can only, speak from the skin that I'm in. And I almost feel like, we treat each other like we were in a big race and I touched the light skin tree before you touched the light skin tree or something. When I had no choice over my complexion, like you had no choice over your complexion. Your mom and dad came together and you could have been either one of us.
Right.
And this is what God, intended for you to be. And so I made a conscious effort raising you to always let you know that your complexion was beautiful, to always, give you, like, to speak that into you, so that for anything that you may have heard, because I grew up hearing things too, like I'm not black enough, like I'm light skinned. I've been called a mutt. I've been called albino. I've been called mulatto. I've been asked a lot, what are you? I get that too. And for me, for someone who is obviously a very proud black woman, that sometimes is really disheartening for me when black people say that to me. Because I'm like, dang, like, how can I mean, just because of my complexion, I'm not black enough. But I'm living in the same black, experience that you're living in.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, but has anybody asked you if you're mixed?
Oh, all the time.
What?
Yeah. Like, people would be like, what are you? Are you black?
Wow.
Like, especially when I used to wear the weaves and all that all the time, people would be like, well, what are you?
And you know what? That just reminded me. Somebody asked me if you were mixed.
Yeah.
Somebody asked if my mother was mixed. And I feel like that's just so disrespectful, because why can a black person not be light and not have to be mixed with anything?
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, baby girl.
But I also just wanted to thank you for telling me that I'm beautiful, telling me that I am beautiful and that I was beautiful when I was younger, because it really has helped me grow up to love the color of my skin. And because I love the color of my skin, I make sure another black sister knows that her skin is beautiful and that she's beautiful, because you have allowed me to grow up in an atmosphere where it's only just good vibes when it comes to bodies and your skin and the color that you are and the color that God made you to be. Because it's like what you said, like, nobody can help the way the way that they come into this world.
No.
Nobody can help that.
No.
And I feel like it's a knock on God because he made you that color for a reason. So why would you hate the color that you're in? And why would you make another person feel bad about the color that they're in? So I really do just want to thank you for allowing me to not be that kind of person to where I have to put down another person for me to feel good about myself, because I already know how, bomb I am. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh, gosh. You are listening to These Three Things podcast, Mother and Daughter Relationships, with my daughter, Kimora Reaves. We'll be right back. You are listening to These Three Things podcast, Mother and Daughter Relationships, with my daughter, Kimora Reaves. And we'll be right back. If you want to find more information about this episode and my guest, go to www.these3-things.com. Go to our podcast page and click on this episode. If you like what you've been hearing today, I encourage you to go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and leave a review and tell me what you loved about this episode.
I will say, though, the only time I really didn't like my skin was when, like society or friends or just people outside of your household would comment on it, and it would be so just mean and just aggressive, and it would make me feel like, wow, like, why can't my skin be like my mother's? Why couldn't I come into this world with my mom's skin? But then I would come home and you'd be like, Kimora, like, your skin is so beautiful. Like, it's so brown. It's so chocolate. You look like a chocolate baby doll. You make me feel good. And then I walk outside the house and I'll be like, oh, you're dark. Kim's too dark. You won't see her in the light. You won't see her in the dark.
People said that to you?
Yes, people said that to me. And
wow.
Yeah, it was hurtful.
Black people?
No.
Okay. White people.
White people.
Okay.
It was white people, and it would be very hurtful, and I would just have to laugh it off. I would laugh and just to keep from crying, honestly. I'm just going to be 100. I would have to laugh to just keep it, upbeat, I guess, because, you can't show too much emotion in middle school,
Right. Middle school is a
Yeah,
battlefield.
it's harsh. Middle school is really a battle, not just for me, but just middle school period.
In general.
Yeah, middle school it's crazy.
I agree with that. I was so happy for you to get out of middle school.
Me too. But people would comment all the time, like, let me come to school with weave in my hair. I knew that was going to be something. It was almost to the point, like, I was scared to wear braids to school because I knew they were going to say something. I knew they were going to comment on it.
But do you understand now that a lot of that was envy?
It was envy, because now that I'm older and I'm seeing on social media, all cultures, all races, all people are wearing these wigs, braids, hairstyles, putting perms in their hair, doing all this other stuff. But when I was growing up, it was seen as ghetto. It was seen as ratchet. It was seen as just whatever they tried to make it seem. Except
because they
beautiful.
Couldn't have it. Yeah,
Right.
Because they couldn't have it. So instead of just, showing the envy of it all, I'm going to make you feel bad about it because I can't have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, like, if I could just go back to my 12-year-old self, I would just be like, girl, just be yourself. I will say to the mothers, though, like, give your child, give your daughter, even son, that environment to love their skin and love the body that they are in, because it all starts at home. Like, you're not going to get it out here. You're not going to get it at school. You're not going to get that type of confirmation anywhere else but home. So I feel like, me speaking, it was really important for me to get it from my parent, because I knew, like, okay, like, you got to grow from that. You have to grow somewhere. So.
Because what parents say matter most initially.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what they're speaking to you shapes how you think about you. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about this. Okay. So we just discussed middle school. And I want to kind of educate some parents right here who may have daughters who are younger than you, who are coming up, maybe in middle school or maybe like, freshman year in high school. So like, when realistically did the drugs and the sex or sex acts start?
Drugs first started being brought to my attention, I would say around middle school.
Middle school?
Around middle school.
7th or 8th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade. Okay, and what form of? Yeah, tell me what drugs.
It was weed.
Okay.
It was weed. I remember being in class and these girls would, no, it was a girl. This girl would be away from school for like weeks. Nobody knew where she was, nothing. And apparently it's crazy because it just shows you how fast word gets out and how crazy middle school was. I remember hearing that she was on drugs and her parents had sent her away to like some boarding school or something for her to like, get help and do what she needed to do so she could come back and learn with the class. And I remember when she had came back, everybody treated her so different. People talked about her. People made jokes about her. I remember one time she just cried, got up out of the class, and just walked out, went to the principal's office. It was really crazy. And it really hurt because you know how soft my heart is.
I do.
So seeing stuff like that, especially sometimes being on that end, seeing that happen to somebody, it makes you feel sad because it's like, wow, like, you can't really do anything except just what she did, just walk out.
Yeah.
You just walk out. And I have never been the type to try and like make somebody feel bad or attack somebody for the things that they did because like, how am I better than them? Like they don't know my story. I don't know theirs. So why am I trying to make them feel bad?
Right.
Like who knows what might be going on in her household. So who am I to try and like talk bad about her, talk about her life, talk about what she needs to do.
Right.
But yeah, that was my first time being introduced to drugs, especially like in 7th grade. Like what are you, like 13, 12 in 7th grade?
Yeah. Okay. So then what about drugs?
Drugs.
Were drugs was sex in middle school?
Yeah, sex was in middle school as well. I remember hearing about it in 8th grade. And I remember hearing about a girl who had lost her virginity in 6th grade. And I remember people talking about that. And I was like, wow, like 6th grade. Yeah. Like in my mind, I'm just like, is that like what happens? Like, what happens? Do people do that in 6th grade? I'm in 8th grade thinking like, wow, like, am I behind? Like, it was just so much going through my head.
And that's a real question that we all ask ourselves when our peer group is already doing things that we have not experienced. We start to question like, okay. Yeah.
And it becomes a real big pressure moment because not only do you like hear that once, but then you start hearing it more and more and more. Like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. Oh, now so-and-so is doing that. Oh, did you hear about dude and,
So
girl?
what kept you from stepping out and doing anything? Because peer pressure is real. Would you say? Yeah.
It's very real. And what kept me was just not wanting to do what everybody else was doing, but to do it when I was like ready, to do it when I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do.
Like, what is something that you can tell parents right now that would benefit them for that has a 12 or 13-year-old daughter? 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there.
I would encourage parents to really just be there for their daughters because this is the time where they are learning about themselves, becoming a woman, maybe starting periods, starting to learn how to shave, doing all that stuff. So just be there for your daughters. Don't try and make like a big deal out of it. That's very awkward for us. Just be there for us. Try and encourage us. Let us know, things to look for. Let us know what to expect. Teach us things. Have trust in us. I feel like trust is one like really big thing to have. Is just trust. I can't really think right now. But
should we come to you guys and ask y'all stuff? Like, I mean, we need to be inquisitive about what's going on with you, don't we? Like,
we do.
Yeah.
Please
And asking y'all
ask.
questions. Yeah. About your friend group and who's in your friend group.
Oh, yes. Yes, please ask. Get information as much as you can about friends, about people who we hang out with, because that really does have a big impact on the road that, you know, your child will take. Because like I said, when it became a bandwagon for drugs and sex, it was crazy because it was always in that group. It was always who you saw hanging around who. It was like, it was only just a matter of time before you knew, like, the next girl was going to be God, or the next guy was going to, like, you know, do his thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like friends is really big, so big.
Was I aware of your friend group, or did I not have a clue?
No, you were very aware. I remember you telling me straight up to my face, they're not your friends. They're on a bad path, Kim. You need to be mindful of who you know, let be your friends, who you let in. And I will say it did take me a minute to finally understand it, but once I got it, it was nice. It was very eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard conversation to have, though, because
That
can go either way. You know, when you telling your kid that, and, you know, a lot of times we as parents, we see it, you know, and we talk to you guys about it. And some kids are like you who can identify that, okay, yeah, mom's right. These people are not my friends. And then you have the other that's more of a rebellion that's kind of like, I want to pick my friends. I want to. So I think, you know, it can go either way, really.
Yeah. And, you know, at the time, kids just want to have friends. Like, they just want to just kick it, have fun, laugh.
Yep.
And I feel like that
be accepted.
Be accepted. And for a part of my, you know, high school / middle school experience, I just wanted to have friends. So I was like, I don't really care about that. We're going to probably move anyway. So I just want to have friends. But once you told me, it kind of made me take a step back and just to evaluate my friends. But I was still cool. I was still nice. I wasn't an a-hole. I wasn't mean. But it did help me, like, step back and just, you know, reevaluate the things that I say, how I act, you know, where I go about, where, like, if we do go out, where are we going? You know, just be more cautious about things in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about this. So during all of this time where we're moving and we are transitioning to different places because of my career, and we're moving as a family, and then your dad and I split up. That was do you remember how old you were when your dad and I split up?
Yeah, the final time I was in 4th grade. Don't really know how old I was.
Was it 4th grade?
Yeah, it was 4th grade.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
we'd moved from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 4th grade. And I wish I could just hug my 4th grade self. I went through it. I really did.
Tell me about it.
I went through it. It was so hard because it was like everything was going good, semi-good, but you knew, like, I knew at some point, like, it was going to come to an end. I knew at some point it was going to be like, okay, mommy and daddy are going to get divorced and it's going to be final. And it might not be good this time. And it wasn't. And I just remember you leaving and me and Kenan having to stay with dad. And at the time, like, that was the first time dad has ever, like, had us. Like, that was the first time we had ever lived, like, with dad, just dad. And I think for him, too, it was really a learning experience because, like I said, it was the first time for him. It was the first time for us. Because any other time, like, if you guys, you know, weren't together, we were always with you. But this one time we were with dad, and it was very, like, it was really hard to adapt because we weren't used to it. And just having to finish off school was just really a drag because so much happened that year. And it was like, I just needed you. I really just wanted you there. But I loved how you would always mail me and Kenan and send us letters. And I just remember getting off the bus, checking that mail before I even got to the door, checking the mail, seeing if, you know, seeing if you had sent us any letters, and reading those letters just made me feel so good. Like, I can't even express like the emotion that made me feel, was to like receive your letters and to hear you. And it would make me sad to have to someone back, because I'm like, oh man, she's not gonna be able to read this like 3-4 days later. But overall, I will say that when we all did get back together, it really made us stronger, because like we all really needed each other. We all missed each other. And when we were all together, man, it was great. We had a really good time. It was nice. Like, the world could have ended, but as long as we were together, like, it was okay.
Yeah. That makes me sad.
It was really hard though.
Yeah, I know that it was hard. And the only reason why you guys stayed was I didn't want to disrupt your school year. Because I already felt like, okay, it's a lot going on right now. To take them out the second semester of school and take them with me would have just been more, and then go stick you in a new school in a place you don't know, that I'm not familiar with either. It just wasn't a good move. And it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do at that time, and that's why I would write the letters, because I was like, I need to touch base with them as much as I can. And like, the job that I had at that time, I was like, I need 2 days off in a row. Every week I came to see you and your brother, like 4 hours I would drive there and 4 hours back to come and see you guys. But, I know that it was hard. When did it get better? And how long did, we're having this conversation for all of the parents who are contemplating divorce, who are going through a divorce, and your kids are experiencing it. I want you to hear from my daughter, because her dad and I divorced. And I want you to hear just maybe the mindset that, your kids may have, and the conversations that you may need to be having with your kids if your family is going through a divorce right now.
Well, I first just want to start off by saying kids know all the time. I've seen people who try and like hide their divorce or make it seem private, or try and keep it from the kids, but overall kids will know. Kids are going to know. They're going to know when the vibe is off in the house. They're going to know when parents are arguing, or when parents are ready to divorce or split apart. I remember so many nights me and Kenan would just sit in a room and be like, like, mom and dad are probably just going to get divorced. Like, they're probably just, well, we didn't really know the word divorce at the time, but we're like, they're probably just, going to go their separate ways or whatever. But it's like, you just know. It's, what a good time is as a kid, and when it's not. Yeah. And I feel like many times parents try and hide that from their kids, but the kids know. They know. And overall, though, when you do have kids involved with going through a divorce, like from my experience, it was just nice for you and dad to both nurture me and Kenan, and to make us feel like it's going to be okay. Like, it's all going to work out. Because in that moment, like, it's so much going through your head. Like, who are we going to stay with? Who are we going to pick? Like, I don't want one parent to feel like I love the other parent more. It was just so stressful. It was really hard being a kid, having to, go through that decision, and having to, just be in that position, period. Because like I said, like, when you pick, it's going to make the other parent feel bad. And I vividly remember telling dad, like, I want to go live with mom. And he cried. And that just hurt me so bad, because I'm like, dang, you see, like, this is what I was trying to avoid. And then here we go. And I remember he cried, and it just hurt his heart. But, you just want to be happy. You want to be where, you're going to be the happiest. And I can't really say, like, from a kid's point of view, like, what to do to try and, like, make the divorce or separation easy, because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very hard. And I remember playing volleyball with one of my friends, and in high school, her parents are going through a divorce. And I would try and be there for her, because I know what it's like from that from the beginning stages of your parents being divorced, like how that makes you feel, like what that, what you go through and everything. But back to us. I would just say, just be there for your kids, let them know that it's not their fault. Let them know that it's going to be okay.
Was therapy good for you and Kenan? Did therapy help you?
Therapy did help me. It really did help me.
Would you recommend therapy?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I recommend therapy, like, to this day, like, to my classmates, friends, everything. Like, this organization I'm in, we actually just had an event, and I told them, like, if you need therapy, like, get therapy. Like, it's really helpful. It helps you to, finally be vulnerable within yourself and just fix the problems or fix whatever you need to fix and just, grow. Get out of those habits,
So at what point did it get better for you after your dad and I divorced?
It got better after me and Kenan left, because the house that we were in, the house that me and Kenan had finished that school year in before we had left, was the house that you and Dad had officially got divorced in.
Yeah.
So being in that house, not having you around, was just like, lame.
Yeah.
It was really, just a burden to have to come home and not see you there.
Okay, so fast forward now, your dad and I have been divorced for a while. And the year that you graduated high school, we all took a family vacation to Dolphin Island and just celebrated, you graduating, your brother in school, you're in school. How important are those moments for you and your brother, that your dad and I can come together and do those things and still have those moments together?
Well, I love when we have those moments together, and I feel like those are really necessary because, it's a family. It's a family. We are all connected. Well, me and Kenan are connected to you and Dad, by blood. So, when we are together, it's like we're a family. Like, we started off together. And I feel like in that moment, it was really nice to all be together in a good atmosphere, in a positive atmosphere, just in a great mindset to just hang out with family and to hang out with people that you love and to forget about all the chaos and the crazy things that happened in the past and just, be happy and just enjoy each other's, company.
I'm like listening to you and really like just listening to you because mom and dad are still married.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a part of me as your mom feels horrible that I couldn't give you what I grew up with. Two parents in the house, two parents that are still married, never really feeling like I had to choose. So I listened to you and a little bit of my heart breaks. I know we're on the other side of it now, but just to think back to like what it might have been like for you, and your brother, during that time. And, I'm glad that we made it through. I'm glad that, we all got therapy and we could talk about, how to deal with and process and have coping skills. Because I was coaching at Mississippi State at the time, and, that was a lot of responsibility, and I was trying to, do my best job there. And then I was dealing with the things that were going on between your dad and I. And then you and your brother were having your own set of emotions. And I just remembered that therapy for me was about having coping skills to know how to manage all of these moving parts that are going on in my life, because I felt like for a season, my patience was really short with you and your brother because it was just a lot. And I don't think, and it wasn't for you guys to ever really consider, but, if you're old enough to kind of think about it now, but like, okay, my marriage is falling apart. That's hurtful because, I really, 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 really loved your dad, so that's ending and we just can't seem to get it right. We can't seem to fix it. We can't seem to get on the same page. And here we have these two beautiful kids. That's falling apart. It's coming to an end. And it's clear that there is no other option at this point but for this to come to an end. You guys are hurt and you're feeling away, and to see your mom and dad come to an end, and now your family's going to be broken up, and you're wondering, okay, how is this going to go? All the things that you just said about living in different places and all of that, and then there's this gymongous job over here that's expecting me to travel with the team, go and travel and recruit, be at every practice, stay up late and watch film, call recruits on the phone. And it was just so much, and shout out to Leslie Pye, our therapist in Mississippi. Leslie Pye, okay, exactly, Kim. Shout out to Leslie Pye, who is still our therapist.
Yep.
To this day, Leslie Pye is still our therapist, just because, man, that's my girl. Like, she really helped me and gave me coping skills on how to manage all of that was going on at one time. So, I'm glad that we made it to the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm actually glad that we are talking about this, because it just reminded me about how you preach to me and Ken all the time about how important it is of the person we marry, how important it is that we pick wisely on the person that we marry, because me, from my experience, seeing my parents be divorced was so heartbreaking. It was hard because growing up, children need both parents. They need their mom and their dad. Like, for Kenan, he needed that male perspective to look up to. For me, I needed that male love, like that love from your dad is the first male love a daughter gets.
Yeah.
She needs that in a household. A daughter needs her mother. A son needs his mother. Like, everybody needs each other. And when you take that equation out of a family, it just hinders the family, because now what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
So that is something that I just thank you and dad both, because dad says the same thing, to always, pick wisely who I marry, especially when you start having kids, because you don't want a broken household. You don't want to have to put a child through that. And unfortunately, I was a child to have to go through it. And I don't want to have to put, years down the road, my future children through what I've gone through, because it is really hard and it is hurtful. But now that I am on the other side of it, I know like what to do now, so this won't keep happening.
Yeah, to choose wisely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, so the point of our discussion today, and we've just kind of really been talking about everything. We've been kind of giving parents some tidbits about things that they should know about their daughters, and just, through divorce, sex and drugs in middle school, just different things. So what do you think, as a young lady, shapes the dynamics of a mother and daughter relationship that makes a good one? What makes a good mother and daughter relationship to you?
What makes a good mother and daughter relationship to me is creating the atmosphere where you guys can be friends, like it doesn't always have to be on a serious matter between a mother and a daughter. Like, have that openness to, like, be friends, be cool, talk about things that, may be uncomfortable. Because if your daughter can't talk about it with you, like, a mother is really her daughter's like first best friend. So creating that atmosphere where you can be yourself and have those conversations allows your daughter to come to you when, it's the time to come to you, instead of shying away and saying like, oh, I can't talk to my mom about that. She not the one to, talk to about those type of things. And I'm glad that me and you can talk about things. Like, I'm glad that I can come to you and be like, Mom, like, this is what's going on. And you be real with me and you tell me the real, and, we
doing
can.
Great.
Thank you. And we can, just have those conversations, even if they are uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable enough to come to you and talk to you about them, because I know our relationship is good.
And do you feel like that's because of my reaction when you've come to me about things,
Yeah.
I don't, overreact or
I mean, no, there are some times where you have like overreacted, and I'm like, okay, well, that's no more for you. But then there are some times where your reaction is something that I need. Like, it's all about like what that person needs. Like, it's what I need, and it's about what you need, Like, I'm growing up, I don't need like my mother constantly like in my ear telling me what I need to do, telling me this, telling me that, telling me what I need to do. But just you being there for me was enough for me to just prosper and to become the woman and learn my way, not your way, but my way. And I feel like that's so important, especially in the Black community, because Black mothers are so prone to like telling them their way, their mother's way, and make it seem like the child's way. So then that's just more, generation after generation of the same thing, which causes females to grow up and not really know like what they want to do, what they, just
who they
blank,
are.
yeah, who they are. And I thank you for letting me learn like who I am and not just who you want me to be.
Yeah.
And
that was conscious.
Yeah.
I consciously raised you that way because I was like, you know what? I want her to know who she is. Yeah. Thanks
and not
for saying
just even
that.
in the Black community, just mother and daughters, period. Just trying to make their children or make their daughter like be somebody instead of just letting them be themselves, letting them do what they need to do, letting them make those mistakes, letting them learn from those mistakes, being a guide wing for them, like just being there for them. Because overall, I mean, growing up, they're going to do what they're going to do. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm going to, like what you tell me all the time, like, you're going to do what you want to do, but I'm going to help guide you and tell you, like, and help you.
Yeah. And that's tough. Sense. Yeah, no. And there's times where that's tough because the inclination and the nature of most parents is to, because of what we've learned, try to tell you and spoon feed you everything. But I realized that you guys don't belong to me, and you're different. You're your own persons, and more than anything, than me trying to correct every mistake I've ever made through you guys, I gotta let you just be.
You gotta let us learn.
I gotta let you be, and I gotta let you learn.
Because the thing about that is, like, when we learn, we're learning in our own way.
Yes.
And I feel like that's more important because that's something that we won't forget because we learned it in our own way.
Yeah.
Instead of like learning like your way, it's our way. So that becomes more personal within us because it's like, like, okay, I get it.
And I share my way. I share my experience, but I let you learn it the way you need to learn it. Or even if you experience it, you may not even experience it the way I experienced it.
And sometimes there are times where I come to you for advice and I'm like, okay, like, how should I go about this? And you give your advice. You don't tell me what I need to do. You give your advice. And then from there, it's on me.
Yeah.
And from there, it's the time where like, okay, like, Kimora, like, what are we going to do now? Like, this is on you. Like, your mother can only do so much. She's not here to live your life. She's not here to tell you what to do. She's here to guide you and give you advice. Now it's your turn. Put your big girl pants on and figure it out.
Yeah. And you know what? So far, you've done pretty good, kid.
Thank you.
You make good decisions.
All because of you.
Well, I mean, no. Ultimately, like you just said, you ended up calling the shots.
Yeah.
So you're making good decisions, and that's important because good decisions over time create a good life. Bad decisions over time create a not so great life.
Right.
So I'm proud of you. What has your experience been like with your friends as far as their parents' relationships, mother and daughter? What have you seen?
I've seen some of my friends have good relationships with their mothers, and I've seen some that have pretty bad ones with their mother. But overall, I feel like all mothers and daughters kind of have like the same feeling towards one another because, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to some friends where they'll be like, oh, I hate my mom tells me what to do and she thinks she the boss. I'll hear some of my friends talk about how bad their relationship with their mom is, but then I'll hear like the good ones, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll hear like, oh, like my mom's my best friend. Like I tell her everything. She cool with me. Like one of my coworkers who I work with, like her mother had came in, and it was her birthday. It was her mom's birthday, and she had asked our manager if she could like get off early to go spend time with her mom, and the manager was like, yeah, like go ahead. And I kid you not, they held hands and skipped out the door. And I was like, that is so cute. And it's crazy because some girl was like, I can never do that with my mom. She was like, my mom would never hold my hand. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then it also, talking about that also just reminded me about how affectionate that you are with me and Kendon.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you would hug on me and Kenan and give us kisses and stuff like that. And some of my friends would be like, they never do that with their parents. Not even their mom, dad, nobody. And it's just like, wow. Like,
yeah. I've had players come and tell me that. Like when you guys were coming like on road trips or something and they see me like hugging on one of y'all
Yep.
or leaning on one of y'all or holding your hand or something, they would be like, I wish I had that type of relationship with my mom. Like my
exactly.
mom isn't affectionate like
Yeah.
that. But I've always cuddle bugged y'all, you know? To
Now
this
we're cuddle
day.
bugs.
Yeah, we are cuddle bugs. I'm still to this day like,
Yeah.
come sit here. Come sit right beside me. So yeah, well that's cool. You know, I appreciate you saying all the nice things about me. Like we've had our moments.
Yeah.
We've had our mother-daughter moments that were not so great. But I feel like overall, you know, I feel like our relationship is really good. You know, and for me as a Black woman, you know, having a podcast about Black women and our relationships with each other and the dynamics of our relationships in places like the workplace, in family, in the community, you know, it's very important to me that I am an example for you on how to be to other Black women, you know, and I'm going to ask you this honestly, and I want you to be honest. Like, you know, do you feel that I have been that example for you? Do you feel like, I mean, have you ever heard me like walk around bad mouthing Black women or talking bad about
Never.
us? Yeah.
Never. You have given me such a positive and a great outlook just on the Black community and Black women, period, to where sometimes like I'll hear the mean, disrespectful things a Black girl would say to another sister, and I'm like, dang, like that's kind of harsh. Like, how could you even be okay within yourself to want to just talk bad about a fellow sister when you are walking, well, not exactly walking in the same shoe, but walking in the same race as she in America, and you're gonna say that to her? Really?
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, I can rant on this for like 30 minutes straight.
Yeah.
But that within itself, like, it breaks my heart, which is why I was so for you with making this podcast, because it is something that we need to do better on. It is something that we need to improve on and not be out here bad mouthing another sister, because to be honest, like, we're all we got. Like, I can't go to a white lady and talk about the Black struggles of being an African American female in this country. What's she gonna say?
Right.
But I can go to another Black girl and be like, hey girl, like what do you think about this? Like, listen to this, like, help me get some clarification on this. Like, and that's always good to have.
Yeah. It was very important to me to pass that on to you about us as Black women.
Yeah.
You know, and being mindful of what I'm saying around you. But to me, it has never been something that I've had to really be mindful about. It is just really who I am.
Yeah.
I don't want to be at odds with my sister.
Right.
Even times where I have carried grudges with my sisters. Now, I'm not talking about my biological, I'm talking about Black women, queens. It has taken something away from me.
Yeah.
It takes something away from me. You know, I want to see us really, you know, be in good relationship with each other and get to a place where we can communicate our problems to each other and understand that we really do need each other, and that the relationships that we have of jealousy and, you know, trying to keep each other down or not being supportive of one another is not really who we are. It's something that our history did to us.
Right.
And it was intentionally done to us. And some of us understand it and realize it, and we do better. And some of us haven't been exposed to the history of it all to understand that a lot of what you're experiencing was intended for you to experience it that way. And so I'm just trying to do my part about something that I'm passionate about.
And I love that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that, you feel that way. And this is not something that we sat down and said, okay, you're going to say this and I'm going to say that.
No.
I wanted it just to come raw. Like I wanted you to talk about the divorce and talk about what your experience was like and talk about the sex and the drugs and the, all of that. I wanted to be open. I want for mothers to hear your daughters and to be able to hear your daughters and love them and see them as who they are and not as you want them to be. Because what you're going to find, which is what I find in you, is that I really like you.
Thank you.
I don't need another me, because me, I'm a lot better Sharrona at 49 than I was at 19. Like, you are so much more further along than me, Kimora. And I wish that I could have your maturity at 19, but I didn't. It took me longer to get there, but I've always been responsible. I've always handled my business and taken care of the things that I needed to take care of, but I don't think I possessed the maturity level that you did. And, choosing to back off of my way and my thinking and letting you and your brother just be made me see you as a person separate from me. And I'm like, gosh, I really like her. And I like, how she is and how loyal you are and how loving you are to your friends and supportive of the people that like you. And I watched you go through those years where you were super nice to everybody and realized that ain't gonna work. I got to start standing up for myself and speaking up for myself, and
in a respectful way.
Yeah. So what are other reasons that you feel that affect mother and daughter relationships in a bad way?
I feel like jealousy is also one thing that really hinders a lot of mother and daughter relationships, because you have this mother who was, jealous of their daughter. And in some way that's going to cause, confrontation and rebuttal against each other and just basically just butting heads with each other.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the long run, that's just really just going to hurt the whole relationship within itself, because then that daughter is going to feel like she can't talk to her mother. She can't, be with her mother, be around her mother, feel like she is beautiful around her mother or anything around her mother because of the jealousy her mother feels for her.
Yeah. And what do you think that jealousy is in? Like, what do you...
Oof, I really don't know. It can be anything between looks, height, feel, like anything really. Just, and it's sad
Have
to
you
say.
ever been around any friends where that you felt like the mother was jealous of them?
Oh yeah.
You have?
I have, yeah. They're in West Virginia actually.
Okay.
I would be over her house all the time, and her mother would just bash everything about her. Like, it was so crazy, Mom. Like, I remember just like telling you to come pick me up because it honestly hurt my feelings, because her mother would say those things about her, and I would watch my friend just cry in her room and just cry. Keep in mind, we're in middle school. Like, we need our moms. We need them. And to have our mom tell us, like, we need to lose weight, or we're getting too big, or we think we're all that, or we think we're this, that, and the third, and that we're too conceited within ourselves. Like, that's just hurtful, because, like, you're a girl. Like, you're a female. Like, you're supposed to be there guiding me, helping me out. Like, if it's a problem, like, come to me and say that, but don't lower my self-esteem. Don't make me feel like what I'm doing is wrong. Yeah. I mean, because females in general, we already go through moments where our self-esteem gets low.
Right.
We go through moments where we feel like we're not good enough. So if we can't be good enough to our mom, like, that's setting your daughter up for just pure failure. Because then she's going to feel like she's not good enough for a man or a boyfriend or anything, just job related, or just, anything in life.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Anything else? that you feel like makes the dynamics of a, for me as a mom, I'm just going to say, I feel like something that I've learned that I think has made you and I have a good relationship is what is something that you said that I have just let you be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I have, now if I've seen things in you that I felt like I needed to say something about,
Yeah.
I would say it. And for the most part, you've received everything that I've had to say. Like, you'll take it with a grain of salt and you'll go back and you'll think about it. And
I
then
might
you'll,
cry, but
yeah, you'll cry. You're like, that's honest though. You got that
I
crying
might
honest.
cry, but I'll think about it.
Yeah, you'll go think about it and then you'll come back and you'll either tell me, your take on it, or yeah, there may be some truth to that, mom, or whatever. But I have to let you grow and develop. And I felt like my biggest job was just to encourage and to speak to those things that I knew you needed to like check and deal with, but also build up those areas where I know as a woman you're going to need,
Yeah, and that's so important too, because I needed that.
Yeah, and build it up in you, because society in itself is going to try to tear it down, especially in African American women. Society always tries to tell us that we're not this and we're not that. And it's so funny to me because it goes back to what I said. You see the envy, because for so many years, big lips, our butts, our braids, these bodies that we have has always been looked at like, well, they're built like men, or their butts are too big, bubble butts, and these big lips, and our noses, and all of these things are all what people pay for now. People pay to have those things. Right. And it's like, I just always wanted for you to grow up and feel good about who you are above anything else, because if you have that, then nobody else can come and tear you down in any way. Exactly. Because and that was my goal with you, as a mom. And so, I know I didn't do everything right. I know that. And I don't want to sit here and perpetuate like I have done everything right, because I can look back at, disappointing things that has happened. And I'm like, I just, wished I could made a different decision then, but I love the relationship that we have, and it has always been a very important relationship to me. Yeah. So.
And you had mentioned it earlier that when we do have our moments, one thing I do love is that we can always bounce back with each other. Yeah. And we can always like rekindle. I've seen and heard a lot of times where mothers and daughters have fell out and have not spoken for years.
Yeah.
And that's just something, like, when I hear that, I'm like, I can't imagine, like, not being able to talk to my mom and call my mom for years. Like, that wouldn't even feel right. There would be something in my heart just, like, broken, missing, broken, all that. To not be able to talk to my mother?
Yeah.
No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So I really do like how we can always bounce back and we can talk about those things and get through it and push on.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's just because, those things happen because people don't know how to be vulnerable and come back to the situation. And I give Leslie our therapist, our family therapist. I call her our family therapist.
She is.
She is our family therapist. She gave me those coping skills, because my inclination sometimes when I'm hurt is to go in my corner and just disengage completely. And she was like, absolutely not. She was like, you're going to call and you're going to say you're sorry about your part. And, we all deal with that pride thing. Well, I'm not going to call first. Yeah, they made me mad, right. But when it comes to you and your brother, I don't have no pride. I don't have no pride. I'm going to be, hey, let's talk. And I find that that's always worked good for us. And what I'm doing with that also too is what Leslie Fi, our family therapist, gave to me, is I'm teaching you, when you become a parent, be quick to settle it. Be quick to settle it with your kids. so that you remember that when, moments where me and mom had a falling out, the next day we're like having a conversation about it. We're apologizing where we need to,
Ooh,
and we're
yes.
moving on. And I need for you to carry that on with your daughter, to be quick to clear it up. Because what happens is that when we give that space a foothold, it just gets wider and wider and wider.
Yep.
And I know for me, I've never wanted that space between me and you, or me and your brother. I don't want that. I want to get it cleared up so we can get back on the right space with each other.
Right.
Because that, that's just always been important to me.
And I also think apologizing is super duper important.
Yeah.
Starting off at a young age too,
Yeah.
because that's just, as a kid, like being told like I'm sorry, like, that's, it's something to be said within that. Like people might not understand it, and that's something that I hope that that is something that I will do with my children, is to apologize no matter what age they are. It's to just say I'm sorry, like,
yeah. Especially when you need
apologize.
to.
Right.
Yeah, we're not perfect. Parents aren't
Exactly.
perfect. It's okay to say I'm sorry. It's okay to say I didn't get it right. It's okay.
You don't always I feel like parents try and put themselves on a high pedestal, but kids know, like, parents aren't perfect. Like, we might want y'all to be, but we know that y'all aren't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But to hear I'm sorry from a parent, like, that means something to a kid, to know that you are vulnerable enough to admit, like,
That your
sorry.
feelings matter too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That it's not just me as the adult, but that your feelings as a kid. I see where I wronged you.
Yeah.
Let me apologize to you.
And not always vice versa. Like
I got to come to you and apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you got to come to me and apologize. Yeah, I feel you. Well, thank you for this conversation, my love.
Of course. I got to go to sleep.
I know, because you got to hit this road tomorrow.
Yeah, early in the morning.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation. I hope this conversation will bless our listeners, mothers and daughters, give them some new insight on how to move forward with their daughters and understanding their daughters. And I love you, kid.
I love you too. How'd I do?
You always do great. You always do great. You just come as you. And I love that about you. You just come as you.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that you are confident in you to just be you.
I get that from you. Seeing you confident makes me confident.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, you are honestly like someone I really do look up to. I think about you all the time. I'm like, how would mom do this? Would mom go and say this? How would mom say this? Like, I don't try and mimic you, but you do help give me like a leeway of how I should, like, approach some things. Like how, affirmative and how, like, powerful and, forceful you are. I really do appreciate that, because that's something I am going to need in this world.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, my love.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, you've been listening to These Three Things with Sharrona Reaves and my lovely daughter, Kimora Reaves. We'll be right back with These Three Things. Beauty Essentials Wellness Spa is the first Black-owned spa in Savannah. Owner and veteran Phyllis Russell and her team specialize in massages, facials, and the first of its kind salt cave therapy, which aids in the natural healing of increased stamina, skin aging, bronchitis, and much more. Book your Valentine's Day special at beautyessentialspa.com. Mention you heard about the spa on These Three Things podcast to receive 15% off any service. That's Beauty Essentials Wellness Spa, located at 407 East Montgomery Crossroads, Savannah. Hey, we're back. This is Sharrona Reaves. I am with my daughter, Kimora Reaves, and it is time for These Three Things. Number 1, your story. Queens, those of you who are listening right now that have daughters, does your daughter or daughters know your story? Do they know the real you or the you you've decided to show them? Do they know about your struggles, disappointments, or heartbreaks? Have you shared your personal victories, accomplishments, and what you've overcome? Do your daughters know you? If we are to teach our daughters to be resilient women, women who persevere through struggles, women who work hard and achieve their goals and dreams, women who win in life, they must know our stories. Yes, at the appropriate age and time, we must share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Our stories show our daughters what's inside them. Lessons we learned about love guide them in love. Our stories expose situations that may visit their lives, and by sharing, we empower them to be better informed than we were. Our stories help our daughters to see that we too were once young, insecure, unsure, driven, wild, silly, stubborn, disobedient, but as wonderfully made as they are. Queen, your pod work this week is to share some of your story with your daughter. There's power and guidance and direction for your daughters in your story. Share it. Number 2, apologize. As parents, many times we make our kids apologize for hitting a sibling, talking back, being mean, and a host of other things. We teach our children the word, I'm sorry, at a very early age. When we apologize, it's a way of righting a wrong of sorts. It's a way of fixing a situation, making it better, admitting fault. Our kids may find apologies easy to say, and sometimes we have to make them say it. But many times, what our kids don't find is our same willingness to apologize to them when we've wronged them, when we are at fault, when we're the ones that were mean, when we said hurtful words. In therapy, I learned that apologizing to your children is one of the most powerful ways to build trust. When we apologize, it shows our children that the hurt done to them matters too. It shows them how we expect them to treat others is also what they too deserve. It shows them that we are not perfect and that, yes, adults get it wrong too and apologize. Apologizing is one of the quickest ways to heal a situation. Queens, if we're going to teach our daughters at such an early age to apologize and say, I'm sorry, we must be willing to say the same. Apologize. Number 3, a poem for Black mothers and daughters by American poet Oya. Daughter, you are beautiful. Your skin is a wonderful reflection of our ancestors. Daughter, I promise to teach you to love the dark richness that others may make you question. Daughter, you will learn as a child your history, the beauty, and the ugly truths, so you can know how strong and diverse a group of people you come from. Daughter, if you should ever come home crying because someone called you names or defame you because of your darkness, I promise to instill even more strength and power in you so that you can stand proud and stoic and be able to say, my black skin is beautiful, and walk around with a smile wearing your invisible crown. Daughter, I will teach you as a queen to always uplift other kings and queens because you are your sister and brother's keeper. We will pray together, honor our ancestors, walk in majesty until our dying day. Daughter. That's it for this episode of These Three Things podcast. I will see you next week. We only have 2 episodes left in season 2. And remember, you can now listen to These Three Things podcast on iHeartRadio and Pandora.